Good morning, everybody. My name is Meg Crace. I am the social worker here at the Carpentersville Police Department. Today, I am very fortunate to be joined by Helen from Centro de Información, and we're going to do the newest Family Matters topic, which is going to be talking about self-esteem. All right, thank you so much for joining us today, Helen.
Well, thank you for having us. And as she said, my name is Helen. It's actually Helen Lopez Strom, and I work for Centro de Información as parent educator, and we have services here in Carpentersville. Meg could hook you up and tell you how to get a hold of us. She may also have some information that I will leave for her today, since we were hoping to have you here today. You might be seeing this in the evening instead of in the morning, so good evening or good morning, whichever it is. You will notice, please, that our slides are in English and Spanish. That's because I will be repeating this in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking viewers. So today we are talking about self-esteem. Where do you get your worth? Even for adults, this is a difficult topic, but I really want to focus in on your children today, especially your teenagers. But this does start at an early age. You as a parent are going to be building the building blocks of their self-esteem, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and some things that can come from, some issues that can come from when self-esteem isn't built in well. Oops. Okay. Do I click or?
Yep, you should just click on that side and that should go.
All right, so what is self-esteem? It's basically what you think about yourself and your worth as a person. And I already see a typo there. We have these views about ourselves, and they start when we are children. So I usually ask my parents when I'm doing parenting, where does self-esteem come from? And they say from your parents. That is partially true. I said again, it's like a building blocks. We're building the self-esteem one brick at a time. But eventually your child's self-esteem needs to come from them and not from you. You will see that with small children who what I consider are people pleasers. So if you have that child that's running up to you with the artwork all the time and asking you, mommy, daddy, what do you think about this? Or do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like it? I'm sure you have that small child right now in your home. That's not a problem, but it can become one if they don't start thinking about their own work and what they think about it. And us teachers have made this mistake in the past, right? Oh, good job, great work. We are now turning it back on the children themselves. We want them to think of their work and what they think about it. So turn the tables on them and go, well, what do you think? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? If there's something they don't like about it, then ask them, what can you do differently next time with this painting or work that they're doing? Then after they've given their own opinion, then you can talk to them about what you think you like, or even what you think might improve. Let's not think of criticism as a bad thing. If it's done well, it can help them work through different problems, okay? Obviously, self-esteem is also impacted by friends, by circumstances, by social media, and that's something else that we're going to talk about. But from this, I want you to take away that you might be the building block of your child's self-esteem, but at some point, your child has to take over that self-esteem and know what they feel about themselves, what they think about themselves, what worth they have in this world. Okay, so what causes low self-esteem? And I'm sure, even some of us have different issues that we can think of from our childhood that we're working through. I joke with my parents that, I'm in my 50s and just finally getting over some of these issues. So it's a lifelong process to work on our self-esteems. It doesn't just go away when you're young. And if it's low, it doesn't mean it has to stay there. So family, this is true with many families. How many of you have nicknames, right? Sometimes those nicknames are not the most flattering. You think of it as a joke, mom and dad, right? Oh, look at those big ears. Oh, look at that nose. Any little thing like that. We may even joke about children's weight. And we need to be careful because even that goes into a whole other area of eating disorders. And that's a topic for another time for you. But our words really matter to our children. And we really have to be careful of the words that we choose. We have to be careful of knowing our children's personalities. Some children are very assertive. they come out with strong self-esteem, and you know who they are. The confident child, the assertive child. Those kind of words may not hurt them. But then you have your more timid, your more relational child, and they will take notice of those words. And it gets tape recorded into their heads, and they hear it. And then if somebody else says it, like a friend, then it almost becomes truth in their head. Well, it's true, I have this, or it's true, I look like this. So as a family, we have to be careful. Now, let's be honest, raising a teenager is not an easy thing. It really isn't. I've raised twin boys, so I know, I've gone through the fire. That is one of the toughest times. They'll do things that you're wondering, where in the world did this come from? It is a growth process. They are becoming more and more independent, and that's necessary for when they leave the home. So it is a growing process. It just takes us parents sometimes by surprise. I just ask you to just continually love them. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're saying. Think about their future, because that's what your job is to get them to adulthood, to be, I call it, adults that can adult. And their self-esteem is a big part of that. If they do not have a strong self-esteem and confidence, they will not go for that job, or for they will not know what to do when there's a crisis in the family. So a strong self-esteem and confidence is one of the biggest gifts you can give your child, and it just takes time, patience, and a lot of love. Social media, oh my gosh, I can't even keep up with half of it. You teenagers are out there, educate your parents. What do we got? You know, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Hootsuite. I know I'm missing some. There are some that just come out. TikTok. So there are a lot of places the child is going, or your teenager, I shouldn't call you a child, your youth are going to be getting messages from. And we want those to be positive messages, not negative messages. They already get enough negative messages. There is constant comparisons. There is bullying, which we'll talk a little bit more about that through social media. So there can be some good connection, but there is an awful lot of not so great stuff that comes out of social media. So we need to be really careful with this. And unfortunately for a lot of us older parents, there wasn't much of that when we were growing up. So it's a whole new place for us. And I just ask that you educate yourself. I don't know if Carpentersville Police Department has it, but I know of other departments who have done things on social media, shown how false people can be on there, how children are lured away and all that. And it's just a great thing if you can find it. Ask your police department if they don't have it to do something like that, right? All right, self-esteem and friends. Oh my gosh, this I can remember, right? Be careful who your friends are. Have a really good high standard of who your friend is. A friend will not belittle you. A friend will not criticize, your clothing, or if you can't have the best of everything. Or little things like that. But friends are not always friends, and we really need to learn what that word means. Usually I find from youth that if you are that kind of friend, a good friend, you will attract people because they'll want that authentic person. You want to be around people without worrying about what you say and what you do. That's a true friend. And sometimes your siblings can be friends, and that's a good test of if a friend acts the way your brother and sister does. They may joke with you, they may fight with you, but they're always there for you. And there's a big difference. You want somebody who's, as you like to say, that has your back, somebody that will help you through crises, somebody that will listen to you and help you make good decisions. So that's, you really need to figure out what a good friendship is. Circumstances, okay, well, that test that you studied for and didn't do well on. I had one instance with my son when he was younger. His brother got into the gifted program. He didn't, as far as I was concerned. They're both very smart, but his brother was better at math, and that's what some districts use for giftedness. All of a sudden, my usually confident, high self-esteem son started calling himself a dummy, and saying that he was dumb. So we had a long road ahead of us for a year as he accustomed to his brother being gifted and not in the same class as him. And so sometimes our circumstances that way. Sometimes there's divorce in the family, death in the family, loss of a job right now through this pandemic. You youth are having a hard time, and I don't blame you. You've been taken out of your classrooms, out of your social areas, out of sports, out of everything that really means an awful lot to you. And some of you are doing really well, and I congratulate you for that. Some of you are struggling, and I hope that when you're struggling, you actually look for somebody to talk to about it. But we understand that right now things are not the way they're supposed to be. I guess we'll be going, some of you, back to school in the next month, so we hope that happens so that you can make those connections again that are very important to you. All right, social media. Here's the not so good stuff about it. You tend not to socialize. Take a look at that picture. Does that look familiar to anybody? There are a lot of holidays at our house with cousins where I have pictures of 5 or 6 cousins sitting on the sofa, and they're all looking like this. It's interesting. I try to tell my sons it'll still be there when we're done. So parents, I do have a no phone at the table, a no phone during holidays. Not that they don't sneak it, but they don't. You think you're socializing because you're socializing on the phone. But there's so many more things and so many more skills that you learn when you socialize in person, when you see that other person's face. The other thing is, let's be honest, people will say things on social media that shouldn't be said, but they feel like because they're hiding behind their phone, it's okay. And so that's where we get some of the bullying and the other things that happen, because there's no pushback, no consequences sometimes. So socializing, there's a lot of skills of face-to-face, talking to somebody, seeing how they look, body language. That's socialization, that's connection. Phone is really not a connection. Some of you don't sleep. Why? You take your phone to your room with you. And I'll be talking to parents about this. You have it on all night, right? You hear the little ding, that means somebody posted to Facebook. Another ding, somebody commented on your Twitter. You don't sleep, and really that's not healthy in so many ways, psychologically and physically. And then make comparisons. Again, people put up their best selfies. People put up their best pictures. People put up vacations. People put up, look what I just got. This is part of self-esteem, is not comparing yourself to someone else. Self-esteem is comparing yourself to who you are today to who you can be tomorrow, not to someone else. And a lot of times, I'll tell you right now, they're lies. They're not true. Those filters on those things are really nice. So please don't make comparisons with each other. It just is not going to work. All right. Cyberbullying, bullying. Sometimes when I teach classes on bullying, I get parents, and I don't know why it is, men, I'm going to point you out. I hear, these kids these days, they're such wusses, such weenies, such, like you're soft. When I was bullied, I either fought back or I ran home or whatever it was. That's true, right? So I was bullied as a young girl, and yeah, I ran home, closed my door, and I was safe at home. Home should be a safe place. Here's the problem. Let's go back to that social media and the phone. The bullying is being done electronically. And if you're a child, your youth, your teenager has that phone on and in their hand constantly, they are being bullied 24 hours. So it used to be the bully was outside. Now the bully is inside with your child, with your teen, and it is not good. So that's why, again, parents, we're going to be talking a little bit about this. And one of the things I talk about is bully-proofing your child. Raising your child's self-esteem will bully-proof your child. The way I try to explain it is that there's always going to be bullies. There are adult bullies, we see that now. They're not going to go away. So we're not going to be able to make them go away. When I go to these bully seminars, everybody wants to know what to do. Well, there's not much we can do. If it is a physical bullying, you do want to address that head on with teachers, principals, superintendents, even if you have to go as far as the police if a hurting matter, physical matter. But words, it's really hard to do much on that end, especially, like I said, if they're coming in through your child's computer and phone. So your better part is on the other side to bully proof your child. What do I mean by this? Okay, they need to have such a great self-esteem, be so confident in who they are, that if somebody says something, they can grab it, filter it through, go, is that true? Is it not true? Is it something I should work on? Is it not? Nope. Okay, then it's their problem, not mine. And be able to do that. I think of like words and bullying as arrows. And somebody would shoot an arrow at you. If your child has not been bully proofed, it will injure them. It will go through them. It will hurt them to the core. It will become part of their personality because they'll start believing it. If you've bully proofed your child and they think through it, the arrow will hit them, bounce off, never cut them, never injure them. Does it hurt momentarily? Yes, words always hurt. I don't know where that phrase came from about, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me or something like that. I don't know what they were thinking. I grew up with that saying. Maybe it's not said anymore, hopefully. But the problem is that, you can heal broken bones. Words stay with you. They get recorded in your head. You repeat them. I talk about rewriting those words in your head. And I can do that really well, and most of us can. But when a crisis occurs, for some reason, those words come back. So I've had like one father who once said, my father always said I was good for nothing. I would never become anything. And when he lost his job, all those words came back to him, like self-fulfilling prophecy. My dad was right, even though he didn't lose his job because of his self. But we have to be careful. Those words really stick with us. And even after we do much work on ourselves to rewrite the narrative, they will continue to be there, and they will come up when we're in crisis. And so that's a big thing, is to try from a very young age all the way through the teen years to build this wall of confidence with your children. And that comes from you loving them, accepting them, even when they're tough on us, or I hate to put it this, even when they're like kind of ugly. There's an expression of soiling the nest. I don't know if anybody's heard that, but usually teens, before they're going to leave for college or something like that, they just start acting in a way that, you are ready for them to leave for college. But that is just a form of declaring their adulthood, declaring their independence. And though it might hurt us a little bit as parents, we should guide them through that and accept it as them growing up. And I know that's part of the problem with our teenagers, is that they are growing up, they're becoming independent, and it's our job to guide them through this. And one way is for this self-esteem, to make sure that when they leave your home, they feel like they can handle anything. And that's what we want them to be able to do, handle any crisis, any problem, wherever they are, whether it's work or school or college, that they know that they can problem solve and be confident in their own decisions. I think, I'm sorry, when we were talking about social media, yep, I'm going to go back to social media for 1 minute. Parents, I talked about your responsibility, okay? Electronics, as far as I'm concerned, and in my home, were a privilege or a gift, not a necessary item. Food, clothing, shelter, those are necessary items. Social media and other electronics are really a privilege, a luxury, a thing that we give them for convenience. Phone is really good, if we don't know what time they're getting home. But you have to be responsible. I tell parents, if the phone is yours and you're giving them to them, or you bought the phone, whichever, you are responsible for what the content is on that phone. You are responsible for the content that is in that computer. And we know very well right now that we've had cases of sexting and other types of cases like that. Young people are getting involved in this. They don't think it's a big deal. They just forward it, it gets sent to them. Or maybe they don't even forward it, but it stays on their phone, and somehow it's discovered that it's on their phone. Again, the phone is yours and it's your responsibility. So you need to be careful what content is on your children's electronics for their safety and for others' safety, okay? Contracts. So before my sons started a Facebook account, that was before Twitter, we sat down with them and we had a contract. Passwords were given to us. Passwords could not be changed. We tried when they were younger that they not have adult friends. I didn't find it necessary, and we have seen cases, different groups who are youth groups or others, where adult friends are and are not appropriate, even though they're responsible for the children at the time or the students. So up to a certain age, I would not allow adult friendships. We were careful on telling them to be careful who they accepted as friends. We know from the cyber bullying and other things that sometimes somebody will say, well, I'm a friend with so-and-so. And you will accept the friend because, oh, well, I'm friends with so-and-so. Problem is that your so-and-so never checked to see who this person was. They just wanted more friends, and so they accepted them. And this is really how some of the luring and other things occur, is through false accounts, and they somehow get somebody to accept them. And once they have one friend that's accepted, they can get to all the friends on that person's friends list. So the contract had passwords, no adult friends for a while, being careful what adult friends were there, and spot checking from mom and dad every once in a while, just to make sure. The other thing is that, you have to be careful what your children post on Facebook. A lot of personal information. The other thing is, I'm going to tell you the truth. When your teenager goes to college, I had one incident where a friend of mine's son was in sports. They went to go meet the coach. They were getting a scholarship. One night, my friend's son said, hey, the coach is trying to friend me on Facebook. What should I do? And she says, well, if you have nothing to hide, go ahead and friend him. Obviously, the coach was looking to see what kind of character this young man had. And thankfully, he was somebody who had good character. And actually, they raised his scholarship because of that. So I know that employers are checking Facebook now. So we really need to be careful what we're posting. And you should be able to spot check every once in a while. I know your teenager is going to say something about control. I went through that whole thing too. And then I was talking to somebody today who was telling me, well, what if they have a ghost Facebook? And I said, well, you can only do what you can do. Sometimes you can find out from friends if they have a ghost Facebook. If you find out that they're not meeting any parts of the contract, then you can take the Facebook privileges away for a while. There is a way, and it's so nice now, I didn't have this when my sons were, of turning the phone off, turning certain apps off on your teen's phone, just in case. I mean, that's a way of disciplining. You're guiding them, you're trying to teach them what is proper and not proper. Limits. What we were talking about, them taking it to bed. We had a phone garage downstairs, electronic garage. It was a place where all phones, computers, laptops, and such were kept overnight plugged in. There was a certain time that needed to be done. Later on the weekends, obviously, you can figure that out with your own teens. But the biggest reason was for them to get that downtime before they went to bed. The other reason is, again, they just don't need to be hearing or reading about themselves all night long. I would check that to make sure. They were pretty good about it. I never had problems with that. Limits also for schoolwork. So sometimes I hear about grades, and I say, well, let's see, was the phone a reason why they didn't do their work, a reason why they didn't study, in which case then you can have the do your work, do your studying first, and then you can have your phone. And I know it's hard. Some of you are saying there's no way I can take my phone away from my child or my teen, they'll go crazy, blah, blah, blah. This is why the new thing of being able to just shut it off is really nice, because you don't even need to get into an argument with them. You go over the computer and you set the time limits as to when they can have the phone on or not. So parents, it really is your responsibility. Computers shouldn't be in the room, neither should phones. It just leads to too many temptations. We had issues once with porn that was sent through the computer from a friend, and thankfully, because the computer was downstairs, I could see it and eliminate it before anything got worse. So parents, really, it's your responsibility for electronics. And if you start this young, again, I know phones are being started very young. My sons, believe it or not, didn't get their phones till 16. And it's not like the dark ages, they're only 21 now. So they were the only ones that did not have a smartphone until 16. So it can be done. They had a flip phone for calling when they needed something, but otherwise they did not have a smartphone. And they also knew that the computer needed to be downstairs, no tablets upstairs either. This is all for the safety of your teens. I'm sure you read the news. I'm sure you read what's going on. And it's just, if you can continuously tell them that it's for their own safety, I would hear, oh, you don't trust me. And that wasn't true. I didn't trust others. And that's what I kept trying to tell them, was I didn't trust others. Now, as far as what they wrote on their Facebook, no, I didn't always trust them because teens will be teens and they'll, repost things from other people or say something that they will regret later. So yeah, make sure that you are the one responsible for that. You're still the adult in the home. You're still responsible for the electronics. Now, where are we going with this? Well, low self-esteem. Everybody has what we call a bad day where you don't feel so great about yourself, bad hair day, didn't pick out the right outfit, just, don't feel like yourself. We all have those, what we call bad days, but a constant low self-esteem can lead into depression. And if we go back to the social media, it's been reported that in the last 10 years, so in a decade, teen suicide rates have gone up 76%. 76%. Let that just sit there for a minute, okay? And we're seeing suicides as far as the young age of 8. That's the one I've seen the most recent. And you have to think to yourself, how can things be so bad for an 8-year-old that they would think that the best way is to end their life? What happens is this constant low self-esteem just chips away at them as a human being. And it really does get to the point where they feel like, I'm not worth anything, and why bother being here? And that's where it goes. And so all that social media, I said, it gets into their head. And if they don't have something on the positive side telling them, that's not true, or helping them to work through that, then if that's the only thing they hear, that's what they will believe. And we need to be careful on that. So some things you might notice in yourself, and again, sadness is not a bad thing. We have sad days, but that's okay, because then the next day when something really great happens, you really appreciate it. It's when hopelessness happens. That's the not wanting getting out of bed. That's not wanting to go to school. That's not wanting to dress like you usually dress. That's not wanting to hang out with your friends. So now you're only on the phone, perhaps. You don't even go out with friends. That's like not wanting to even try to do homework or try to study. It's a hopelessness feeling. It's like a hole in your soul. And that needs to be filled, mom and dad, by you guys, if it's not being filled in other ways. Anger, nothing wrong with anger. It's what you do with it. We all get angry sometimes, no problem. Hostility is a different thing. That is when you are angry from the time you get up in the morning till the time you go to bed. Everybody makes you angry. Everything makes you angry. You lash out, you may become violent. You may start fighting at school more often. Somebody looked at you the wrong way. Somebody touched you. Somebody bumped into you. Somebody dropped your book. I mean, hostility has no rationale to it. It just happens. It's an emotion, but it's because you are so high strung and you really need to see this in yourself. So if somebody says or does something that normally wouldn't bother you and you start noticing that you're getting angry, or you really start noticing how many fights you're getting to, parents, this is the time to watch this also. Your child was not a fighter in school and all of a sudden they start getting into fights. You really need to start asking the whys. Why is this happening? Withdrawing from family and friends. Again, this is the child or the teenager, that will go into their room and lock the door from the time they get home from school till the end of the day. I caution you parents, if your teen used to hang out in the living room, used to hang out with friends, used to go, bike riding or to the park or to play sports, and they are now spending more time in their room. I ask you to be careful. One of the things that we've noticed with this particular thing is behind locked doors, we've had cutters. And parents not noticing because it's in their room, and then they start wearing long sleeves and you can't see it, or long pants and you can't see it. I had one case like this. The mom just didn't know. She just said, well, she spent a lot of time in her room. So if they start spending a lot of time in their room and that's not normal for them, start knocking on that door. Start asking them how they're doing, pay more attention to them, and try to figure out what's going on. But it could just be the depression, lack of wanting to be with friends, loss of interest in activities. Again, if they were in sports and then the next semester they decide not to play a sport. Might be a flag, might not, but it's a good time to ask. Changes in eating and sleeping. Again, if they're on their phone constantly with social media and they have their phone in the room, the sleeping is not going to occur. Eating is a good sign of depression. It might even be a sign of anorexia, bulimia. You have to check into it. Again, those come from low self-esteem. It comes from not being able to control themselves, and they figure that eating is the only thing that they can control. So once again, just keep an eye out for all those kind of things. Tiredness. This is not the I stayed up late last night kind of tiredness. This is an all day, every day for a long period of time, having no motivation, not wanting to do anything kind of tiredness. And students, this is for you too. If you start noticing these changes in yourself, ask for help. Either talk to your parents and say, I don't know what's wrong, but I just don't want to get up in the morning, or I just don't feel like getting out of bed. Now we know that teenagers sometimes, especially in the summer, will sleep till noon. So, be careful with looking at that as a tiredness. I do really mean that even when they're up, they're exhausted and lethargic. And students, all of these things, you start noticing a difference in yourself. You need to start asking yourself, why am I feeling this way? And then you need to go to somebody. And if it's not your parents, have somebody that's close to you that you trust. Remember, this is a trust thing. You don't want to go to a friend who's going to tell everybody else, or that's going to mock you on Facebook. You want that true friend. Hopefully you have a sibling that you can talk to. Difficulty in concentration. So sometimes this is that fog. Again, watch for grades. If your teenager has certain grades, and they don't all have to be A's or B's, but if they have certain grades and all of a sudden they're dropping, then start asking some of the tough questions about what's going on. Sometimes teachers in high school will contact you. I had one contact me once and say, hey, his grades in my class aren't doing so well. And then she checked his grades in other classes and they weren't doing so well. And she was kind enough to address it first, and that helped because then I could address it. So there's, different ways that you can find out if your child's self-esteem is low or too low. Too low is when we get into the depression side of things. And again, teens, I want you to pay attention to yourself. How are you feeling? What's bothering you? Who's bothering you, right? So there's a saying about not being around negative people, and it's true. If a person is constantly being negative, that's not a person you want to be around. There's a reason for that. Maybe they're feeling hopeless and some hostility, and they're hoping to drag you into their circus. So students and parents, I really suggest that you watch for this. All of this untreated is what can lead to suicide. And there are some wonderful programs for families' mental health. It's something you should be talking about. I know that a lot of times families, we have that code of silence. Don't tell anybody. I have that more in other cultures, but really we have this shame thing connected to our mental health, and we can't keep doing that. Our teenagers' mental health right now is really hurting, and especially during this pandemic time. So listen to them, try to figure out how you can help them, how others can help them find help. It's hard for us to talk to our own teenager. So that's why I ask about, or I tell you about finding help. There are some really good programs that are geared towards teenagers. These are counselors and people who know how to speak to a teenager. They know, they've seen other cases, they know how to help them, how to give them the skills that they need to go through this, because it's not just getting them through one crisis, it is teaching them how to get through life's crises, and they will come up. All right, so improving self-esteem. Again, I joke, but I'm in my 50s and I'm still doing this. So one thing is love yourself. And I know that sounds like, kind of weird, love yourself. But appreciate yourself. Know who you are. Know that you are a worthy person. Know that there are people around you counting on you, people that like seeing you, like being around you, miss you when you're gone. So if you're not in school and they're like, oh, we missed you yesterday. But it's more important that you love yourself, that you know who you are. And this starts young. We need to start asking ourselves, and mom and dad, this is your place, guiding them as to who they are. What are their strengths? What do they like to do? What do they enjoy in life? Be grateful. During this pandemic, it's really hard because we're not around our friends. Maybe if you do get a distancing social time with friends, be grateful for that. Be grateful for what you have. When I teach finance classes, I teach parents to raise their children to have simple lives, so they don't have to be slaves to materials and money, and be grateful with what they do have. Positive attitude. You're the only one that can change your attitude. Mom and dad can't do it. Friends can't do it. You have to get up in the morning, especially if you're having that sad, bad day, and decide, I'm going to be positive today. I'm not going to let things that people say hurt me. I'm not going to let this person bother me. I know they always do this. I'm not going to fall for that. So a positive attitude. Don't beat yourself up over mistakes. Okay, parents, this is a mistake that we've made in the last, 5 to 10 years maybe, with what I call the helicopter parenting, where we don't like our children to fail. I don't think there's a single parent out there that wants their child to fail. We don't want to see them hurting. But that's part of life, and they need to learn how to fail while they're still home with you, so that you can help guide them through that failure. All right, so this didn't work this time, right? This didn't work. What can you do next time to make it work? Guide them through those failures, guide them through the mistakes, show them that mistakes are not the end of the world. Again, that is some place that teen suicide also happens. You have your perfectionist type teenager, expects an A on every test, and all of a sudden they get a B. Sometimes this doesn't happen until college, and some of the problems there is that you're not there to help them guide through this. Maybe they can call you, maybe they don't feel like they can call you, but learning how to deal with failures at a young age will help them as adults. You will see it as something to learn from. Mistake is something to learn from. And we have just tried to keep our children from making mistakes, or we try to solve their problems for them, or we intervene before something happens. And all we've done is prevent or prolong when they will have a failure, and we won't be there to guide them, and they won't know what to do. They will fail, their first class in college perhaps, and they won't know what to do. It's the end of the world for them as they know it. So let's let them fail. Let's just show them how to fail gracefully. Okay, we made a mistake. What are we going to do? Or what are you going to do? No big deal. That was a big phrase at our house. No big deal. As long as nobody gets hurt, then we can just move on and learn from it. Acknowledge success. And here we have to be careful what we believe in success is. So grades, that's a big one for teens and parents, isn't it? Now, parents, we can be really bad about this. All we think about are those grades. We had a different way of looking at it. One of my sons didn't like it. So I told you we had one son who was in the gifted program, one son wasn't. The one son that wasn't in the gifted program, it was math, and he was horrible and still is. We paid for tutors. He spent hours studying and actually stressed himself out too much at certain points. And he could barely get a C. I was just happy he passed the class. That was our goal for him, was to pass the class. My other son, on the other hand, got upset when we would get upset if he got a C in math. And he'd say, well, you accepted his C. Difference was the gifted in math was getting a C because he wasn't doing his work. There's a big difference here. So instead, we talked about our work ethic. Are you doing the work? Are you trying? Okay, then I accept the grade you get. If you're not doing the work and you're not trying, then that's a whole other thing, okay? So be careful what you label as success as. I would tell the son who did love high grades that in a few years, nobody was going to know what grades he got in the classes. But in a few years, they would see what kind of man he was, what kind of character he had, how he treated other people. That was more important. So our job as parents is to, raise responsible and respectful teens who will be responsible and respectful adults. And let me tell you, those two words right there will open the doors for them. I've seen it with my own, because what do we hear? Oh, these teens these days, oh, this youth these days, they don't do anything. Oh, my sons hate to hear that because it's not true. There are an awful lot out there that do. And that's the acknowledging the successes, okay? If your son is, does something, or son or daughter does something, your teen that, you've been asking them to do or haven't asked them to do, and they're helping you out, appreciate. So I like the word appreciate better than acknowledge successes. Appreciate the steps that they're making to improve on different things. It could be in school, it could be in their life. It could be helping others, see how they treat or act towards their younger siblings. These are all things that we can appreciate. Acknowledge success, yeah, we're going to acknowledge when they do well. Especially, I'd like for you to think back on this self-esteem. And when they do well on something, show them how they got there, right? So, wow, you spent so much time on this, or you worked so hard on this, or, you didn't do well the last time, but you kept up at it. Show them what they did to get there. And that is what helps their self-esteem, because they realize that they did it. You didn't do it, somebody else didn't do it, they did it. And that's where that confidence comes. Even with a small child, I tell parents, and this is why I talk about building blocks, because it needs to start young, right? So give your small child, I saw this one day and it was just, I wish I could have taken a videotape. So the mom gave him, he was less than 2 years old, he was dressed like a little man. Mom gave him something to throw out in the garbage can. He went across the room, threw it out in the garbage can, and when he turned around, the way he walked back to his mom was totally different from the way he walked to that garbage can. He was so proud of himself for walking across the room, throwing that garbage out and helping his mom, that you could see it. He walked with kind of like this, I am so good kind of walk, and with his chest puffed out. And those are the building blocks. Those are the I can do it. That's why they start young saying, right? You try to do something for them and they say, I do it. Build on that, I do it. Yes, you can. I'm going to let you do it even though it takes longer. I'm going to let you do it even if it's not perfect. But those are the building blocks. If they start with the I do it and you just keep building on that, then when I get to the teen years, they will have that confidence. Will they have days of low self-esteem? Yeah, they all do. They start thinking about things. Even in college, they're going to have times where perhaps they'll call you and be unsure of decisions that they're making. And that's what you are there for, is to guide them through all those different times. All right, so at home, teens, mom and dad, parents, you can do this too. What gives me value? So I have the mirror there because you look in the mirror, and you need to decide, what gives me value? Is it so-and-so's opinion of me on Facebook? Nope. Is it sometimes my parents' opinion of me? Not always. You need to find that value, and I have a couple of phrases here that you can think about when you're doing this exercise. So I really do want you to pull out a piece of paper, write down 4. You should have more than 4, but let's start with 4. I like who I am because. First of all, you should like who you are, and you should figure out why it is you like yourself. I am super at. What are you so good at? What do you do so well? I feel good about myself when I do this. Okay. something I really enjoy. Let's see. Future goals. Have you started thinking? What do you want to do when you leave your parents' home? Work, school, anything like that. And how can I get there? How can I achieve my goals? What do I need to do? Other people praise me for. So hopefully, parents, you've been praising your child on certain things, and they can write something down here. Things that make me laugh. What I've succeeded in before. My greatest talent. The characteristic I'm most proud of myself. Are you kind? Do you help others? Think of these things, and I really want you to write these down. I wish we could be here with you and you here with us, and we could hear some of these words. Parents, I really think that you should try to sit down after they've written this, if they will share. They don't have to share. This is for them. Okay, but once you write some of these down, have them somewhere. Okay, some of us older people write things down on index cards and tape them to our room so that when we wake up, we can think of that. Who am I? I am this. Maybe have a short phrase, right? I am a talented athlete that works well with others, that helps people, that whatever, you fill in the blanks. But start with I am and fill it in. And every day just remind yourself that you are so worthy and that your parents love you, and they will start, if they haven't, showing you this in different ways with different words and with building your self-esteem. So I thank you once again for letting us come into your home, and I hope that sometime in the future we can have these in person.
All right, thank you so much, Helen, for all of your wisdom, all the education, letting us know all of these great tips to work within our own families. Thank you to our viewers so much for watching this session of Family Matters. I'm just going to throw this out there. If you want to send me an email, my email is always on our Facebook. It's on our website. It's mcrace, K-R-A-S as in Sam, E, at cville.org. If you want to just send me an email and say that you did this with your family, this activity, or a daily affirmation that you think would be really positive within your family, I'm more than willing to always give out prizes. So please shoot me an email. Let me know that you guys are tuning in and paying attention and sort of how this is all hitting home for you. And I'd love to give some stuff away here at the department, okay? If you have any questions, concerns, would like a referral, always give me a call. I'm here at the police department Monday through Friday. You can always send me an email. My officers always know how to get a hold of me. So any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. This is why we're here, okay? Thank you so much and have a good day.